Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 episode. What's that? That's when I bring on a guest I had on in the past because I liked him so much I just couldn't get enough. So today's guest is Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, who is CEO over at Blu Diamond Group. Stephanie, so good to have you back on the show.
Adam, it's wonderful. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed speaking with you last time, and hopefully this will be just as interesting.
Oh, yes, I'm sure it will be. Always a great conversation with you, and I'm excited to get into it. And I know you have a new podcast coming out. We're going to talk about that. Very excited about that. You know, I love supporting the podcast community. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in your career?
Wow, that's a loaded one. But I started off as an early entrepreneur, and my first 15 years of the career was focused on advertising and marketing communications. And so I was a strategist and creating communication solutions for clients. And then I transitioned into my second career, which is real estate development, where I've remained for most of the last 2 decades, with just a little bit of an overlap, I'd say the last about 8 years in venture finance. So pretty much, covered advertising, real estate, venture finance. But along my entire journey, I remained active as a educator for up-and-coming entrepreneurs. So I often tell people I've spent, 30 years at least training entrepreneurs because it's just been remained a passion.
That's amazing. And let's get into what you're doing over at Blu Diamond Group. So tell us a little bit more about the business, please.
Yeah, so Blu Diamond Capital originally was the commercial brokerage arm of my business, and I was very focused on helping entrepreneurs identify their real estate, requirements for their businesses as well as commercial finance. But in working with so many companies, I realized that not only did they need advice along with those specific needs for capital and the location for their business, but they actually needed some business advisory solutions. And so I really hadn't offered that since having my agency where I really took on clients. I was still doing training, but I wasn't taking on clients. So I've since launched Blu Diamond Advisory. And so Blu Diamond Advisory allows me to provide that one-on-one direct consulting for clients. And so, for example, when I have clients that have clear objectives, some of my clients know that, hey, they want to hit a certain valuation in their company, say in the next 5 years, so that they can prepare for an exit. So then I help them to map out what that looks like strategically. And I say we focused on the 3 key areas. What type of capital requirements would be necessary in order to meet those objectives? What type of capacity, how are you going to address your value and supply chain? So what are your internal needs? And then lastly, how are you going to attract new customers or retain your existing customers? So really looking at, kind of how those 3 elements work together for entrepreneurs, but helping them focus specifically on measurable outcomes.
That's awesome. I want to get into this podcast you have coming up. So podcasting gets me excited. It's what I do. I'm not going to lie, Stephanie. Everybody knows me. I love talking about it. So tell us about the new podcast you're launching and what kind of content can we expect? I mean, let's just get right in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it really became one of those things that I think some of us, initially I'm not going to be that involved in social media, but it's really become essential and a necessity. And really it was some of the clients that I went to speak at an event, and one of the clients, I had led a mastermind group that was aimed at taking employees from employees to entrepreneurs, that early transition into business ownership. And so I was speaking at another panel and ran into one of the business owners that had been part of that training. And she said, Oh my goodness, I really wish that more people knew about you. I'm ready for the next. And I almost wish I could just have some kind of regular interaction with you.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, wow, well, you kind of validate my thinking, because folks are saying, one thing about creating an audience, but you need to stake your claim out there in the digital environment. And so I thought, well, 2020, not only is it a new year, it's a new decade. So it's an exciting time to really think about, what do you want to accomplish in the next 10 years? And so I really thought back and said, I kind of get some of the same type of feedback from clients when I do training, and I do training around capital. I do training around strategic business objectives. And so that's what I may touch on, some of these other areas like capacity and customers in that conversation. And I really noticed that no matter what company we're raising capital for, there's always a need to address that capacity and really not only the go-to-market strategies, but how you're going to retain those customers once you attract them. So the Ask Dr. Money Live, I say it's sort of the marriage of, if you think about what Susie Orman does for individuals, it's kind of like that finance conversation, but for businesses. People often say when I tell them a little bit more about my story that they find it motivational. So I would say if you think about how people respond to, motivational speakers, how they're impacted by a Tony Robbins or whomever they're looking to for that motivation, there's some motivation in my messages. And then lastly, when you think about pop culture, right, you want to be able to communicate these business terms that sometimes can be, dry, bland when you think of some of the business commentary. So making sure that in this conversation that there is authenticity and kind of reflection of, if you will, my flavor. So when I think of kind of trendsetters in the flavor space, I'm drawn to like our Beyoncé's, Rihanna's, kind of women that you clearly know that they have a business sense because they have other business brands, but they're able to share their messages in an entertaining format. So I say Ask Dr. Money Live is sort of the marriage of those three elements of, who I am as an individual, and it will allow me to feature thought leaders and other experts who I'm constantly in conversation with, but I would really like to share that with other entrepreneurs and allow them an opportunity to ask specific questions about their business and get a meaningful response.
That's awesome. And so how often, though, so give us a little bit of an idea of, so when is it, hold on, wait a minute, is this live or are you launching this? I just want to make sure.
I'm launching. We're not live yet, so
when can we expect this to be live?
So we should be live in about the next 30 days. We're doing our final, planning for the show, and we'll be going live. We're planning to kick off in March. And the idea is to have, I started daily motivation, and I've been doing hashtag Get the Bag with Dr. Money. And so I thought about it and I said, well, where can I get so I could sort of be, relevant to folks? And I love the idea of lunch and learn, kind of bring your bag lunch to lunchtime and learn something that you can turn around and execute in your business. So I'm going to go for a lunchtime podcast.
That's awesome. And so, so let's see. Should I call you Stephanie or should I just call you Dr. Money from Ron? I don't know how to address you because I'm so excited about this podcast. What do I call you? I don't know.
I think what I've been doing is I've been telling everybody I'm Dr. Money because for some reason they say it's sticky.
I'm in, Dr. Money. So Dr. Money, if somebody wants to know more about the podcast or to learn more about Blu Diamond Group or all that good stuff, what's the best way for them to follow you or to connect?
So follow me on Instagram at I am Dr. Money, on Twitter at I am Dr. Money, and then on my LinkedIn, Dr. Stephanie Ardrey. So you can find me at least those three places, and within 30 days, you'll see far more branding supporting all of those things.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, hey, Dr. Money, really been a pleasure having you on the show, and love the name, love it all. It's all going to be great. I'm excited for the podcast to come out and to go live. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe on that and leave us some comments on in the comment section of this video. Love to engage with you there. And thanks again for coming to the show, Stephanie. It's really been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Thanks again for having me.